This is Rogers TV.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Mom and Pop Eateries of Grey Bruce. And again, I'll repeat myself. What a journey it's been these past 9 or 10 months, traveling all across Grey and Bruce counties. And, you know, I love all my guests, don't get me wrong, but I've had a couple of favorites, and I'm inviting some of them back. And this week is no different. We got Matt Dwyer, the owner of Red Bay Lodge in Red Bay, Ontario. Matt, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Rob. I really enjoy coming on, and I'm glad I can actually be home this time and be up here at the lodge, coming into you from here.
I was, absolutely. I just love it. I was looking at I watched our first show this morning just to give me a refresher on what we had talked about. And you had the same, I think we had pretty much the same background going that day. And but the lumberjack jacket, the hat, and right in the middle of the lodge, that's a great setting for the show today.
Yeah, I certainly feel more authentic, and honestly, that's what attracts people to this place. Like we're a destination. This is the real deal in the middle of the woods. So this is what normally would be our dining room. We've taken the tables out just because it doesn't look like we'll be doing indoor dining anytime soon. But I get to live here, so I certainly count my blessings and certainly feel lucky enough for that. Lucky enough to still be open and still be operating, just being able to feed a lot of our guests up here. So happy to be on the show, Rob.
And I've been to the lodge quite a few times over the years, and I can envision exactly where you're sitting right now. And I guess what I'm imagining the drive into the lodge, which is, it's just a beautiful spot. If nobody's ever been to the Red Bay Lodge, and I'm not just saying it because I'm talking to you, Matt, it really is a picturesque spot. So, all right. So the last time we talked, as I said, I took a look at that spot that we did back a few months ago, and you were getting ready for the winter season, and let's talk a bit first about some of the changes that you had to make in order to be able to open the lodge.
Yeah, so when we last spoke, we were on the weekends open, and we were doing indoor dining. And the biggest sort of change was just immediately after we spoke, the sentiment around the COVID situation just started to change. So a lot of those numbers started to creep up. And we were sort of left with a little bit of a dilemma because we have this big infrastructure. We have a sort of large space. We'd normally seat 52 in this room, and then we'd sleep up to 50 in the lodge if we were operating. So we were sort of ramping up to full operations as the numbers were ramping up and looking closer to closures. So we ended up, we revamped our menu. We ended up going to takeout only with the provincial closure of indoor dining. The biggest change for that is we lose alcohol sales, which is a big factor that a number of restaurants are currently dealing with as well. We are able to sell alcohol with takeout, but the number of patrons opting for that is obviously not very high. So that was sort of the biggest immediate financial change for us. But the biggest sort of overall change was that it makes us skew away from events, which is something that was a big sort of part of our marketing plan and our operations plan here, is that we have to drive people to come to Red Bay. We have to sort of do different events and do different activities that's going to convince you to make a 20 or a 30 or a 40-minute drive to come here. So the failure or the inability for us to sort of continue doing large events really impacted our ability to operate. So we're on a skeleton crew, I would say, at this point, and we're doing sort of skeleton amounts of food every shift as well.
Yeah, and don't feel bad because I work in an urban center excuse me, I work in an urban center, and we're in the same situation. It's just trying to get used to the prep levels and everything. And we talked a bit about that before we started taping, and it really is a very stressful time for the restaurant business. It's a lot of days it's looking for something to do because there just isn't anything to do, right?
Yeah. Well, and I don't know how much you want to get into this sort of business side of this, but from our perspective, we weren't even really looking for the food service to make a profit. We were just trying to have the food service cover the cost of employees and the cost of goods, so the actual cost of bringing the food. And even that, it's been not really able to meet those that target. Let alone coming close to any of our heating costs or any of our operational costs as well. Put it in perspective, it's pretty cold in this room right now. Though that's the actual wood on the shingles behind me. So there's no insulation. We're close to $5,000 a month to heat this building. So we're actually a little bit happy that we don't have to heat it right now. It's an easy decision to sort of put a jacket on or a sweater right now.
And as you said, the restaurant math, right? It's in order to cover all of those costs, like you just touched on the heating bill being $5,000, but all of those costs in order to keep the lights on, all of those things, it really adds up. So then you have to figure, all right, here's my average cost or my average price per cover, for example. How many hamburgers do I need to sell in one day in order to just cover those skeleton, bare bone costs that you have every day? And that's part of doing the show today, is to give people a more of a realistic view of exactly what goes into the daily operations of the restaurant and the costs involved.
Well, so for our standpoint, one of the biggest challenges is that the majority of your demand comes in very peak times. So for example, like a lot of restaurants, it's going to be Friday and Saturday nights from 5 to 7 o'clock. So that is a time where you're getting lots of demand, but your kitchen is sort of restricted in how much it can serve in those very peak times. So being able to distribute it, being able to sort of have different hours or different sort of promotions to convince people to buy outside those times would definitely help as well. I don't really think there is a possibility of things being profitable right now. I think that a lot of existing businesses can definitely rely on most of the government support. It's just sort of luck that we don't really qualify for most of it. We're still unable to get the wage subsidy at this point, just being a new owner of a new business. But we're optimistic that the new Ontario grants would have some stipulations for new businesses. So we're hoping for some government help, but it's just sort of survive at this point. There's no real chance of thriving.
Yeah, because traditionally in the restaurant business, well, business in general, once Christmas and New Year's is over, January and February and part of March, maybe a good part of March, those are the months that is absolutely dead. There is no business. People aren't spending money. They aren't going out. And then now you add pandemic on top of it. It really makes it really tough. Now, I know from talking to one restaurant owner, he did qualify for the wage subsidy, but it's done in 3-month increments. So he just recently had to put in his request for the wage subsidy, but it's based on the previous 3 months. So those 3 months, business was much better than it had been, let's put it that way, and it's much better than what it's going to be over the next 3 months. So, like he said, I'll tell you exactly what the percentage was. I guess the ceiling is 75% that they'll cover for wages, but because of the income that he had for those previous 3 months, it was knocked down to 15%. So, and he's sitting there with his head in his hands going, what am I going to do?
Yeah. That's the difference between, for example, that person feeding their family or not. And I think a lot of people do realize how dire this is. When we sort of put out there that we're in trouble and we have a cliff that we're sort of barreling towards, the community stepped up in just unbelievable amounts. I literally had 40 or 50 phone calls in this sort of preceding day. Just hundreds of emails of people saying, this place is important, small businesses are important, and we want you to survive. So I think that it's a dire time, and there's a lot of people that are struggling, but I think there's more people that are sort of behind the greater industry, and I think want people to get through. So my first advice is just reach out if people are in that scenario. Don't be afraid, and don't feel bad about explaining how dire it is. I feel sometimes some people are a little bit reserved about opening up about the struggles of their business, but I think as you said, like we're all in this. We're all in that same boat.
And Matt, that is what was key to what you just said, was your honesty. All right. You not only stated, and you're right, I think a lot of business owners are guarded. They don't want to be as forthright and be as honest as you were. You not only told of the situation, but you gave actual figures. You said, this is how much it costs. You gave them a dollar figure so that people could relate to exactly what you were saying. It wasn't just I got a sore toe. No, you explained exactly what was wrong with your toe, and so that people absolutely understood what you were talking about. And so, and it had a very positive effect for you. But I think in that honesty, and by you getting that word out, that what it did was it made it better for other restaurants as well, because people had a better understanding of exactly what was going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know even just by the other restaurant owners that reached out to us, or even other business owners that just tried to offer their support. If people haven't been in these type of dire situations, or if they're not in them now, they have been in previous times. And so a lot of people can relate, and it just sort of band together and sort of take on these challenges. The one that we're sort of dancing around here is our insurance renewal, which is sort of a dagger into our plan to get through the winter. So in November, we had our annual insurance renewal provided to us. It went from $16,000 up to $57,000. So we asked for justification of this. It was about 2 weeks before our actual renewal date, and it was just sort of nonchalant. It was just, it is what it is. Take it or leave it. Open your business, let it survive or close. They didn't really care. And I can understand that. It's a business, but it's a business that's critical for us to survive. And it's critical for us to have to operate. So we've been in this sort of public battle now, just trying to find an option that'll allow us to continue without a $5,000 a month insurance rate, which just takes any chance we had at carrying this over the winter and eliminates it. So I'm more optimistic than I was when I made that initial post, but we're still in the same boat. I'm still paying $5,000 a month right now.
And that's, again, as I said earlier, you go back to the restaurant math, that $5,000 a month, what do you need to do in sales in order to just cover that $5,000, right?
Yeah, so 93 orders of our fish and chips per day, every day. So we're not even open every day. I don't even buy 93 orders of fish for a weekend. Like we're an average weekend, we're doing about $3,000 in sales, just on a regular sort of 4 8-hour shifts. So the numbers are just insanity. It would require 2 of our rooms here every night of the year just to pay it. So it's them just trying to divest us as a customer. There just isn't any regulations. There's nothing stopping them from doing it. And up until now, we've been unable to get any other insurance companies to even offer us a quote. So we are optimistic that will change given the new year. But I think last year, a lot of the insurance companies just pulled back, so we couldn't sort of hop over and switch to another. We tried, we had just dozens and dozens of quotes. I'm still optimistic that that'll happen, and then we can pay to cancel $1,000 a month and pay fees and penalties and whatnot. But I don't know. It's one day at a time, Rob. So we've just learned that we're closing down for lodging for the next 28 days too. So that kind of derails some of our plans for February. And so we'll see. It's just one day at a time.
Absolutely, it is. And, as you said earlier, the people of Grey Bruce County, just incredible. The stories I've seen through the Facebook page and talking to restaurant owners, and they're so grateful for the people and the way that they've responded during the last lockdown. But I think there's, and this is my opinion, but I'm pretty sure it's bang on. The difference between the last lockdown and this lockdown is that the federal government was pouring money into the economy. There was money flying everywhere. Everybody had money. So they had that extra money to spend, and they put it into the pockets of the people that will spend that money. But that isn't the case this time around.
I certainly don't have any extra money, I'll tell you that. So if there's any access to it, yeah, it'd be nice if it opened up. I know that's a little bit of a battle, and this sounds ridiculous, but we have to start thinking about hiring for the spring, and if there's an ability to operate more as we get into March or into April, and we have to sort of compete with people that don't necessarily want to start working as well. It's been a challenge already so far. So I don't know the stipulations. I don't know the right way to do things in that sense, but I know it's a challenge, just pumping more money into the economy and convincing people to spend it. I don't know. They won't be traveling anytime soon, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, the lockdown or stay-at-home order kind of puts a kibosh into that, doesn't it? So, again, it really is a frustration, not just for the restaurant business. Like I said, I've been in it my entire working life, and right now I feel my chest tightening up just thinking about it. But especially when you're working in the industry and you see exactly what's happening. But I think for a lot of people too, if they were to pay attention and do a visual as they're driving around, let's say in Owen Sound or a bigger center or something like that, you take a look at, and I've seen it, I've done this myself. You look at the drive-throughs. All the drive-throughs are lined up with cars, be it, whatever the franchise may be. Anybody that's got a drive-through, you're lined up. But then you see a restaurant sitting there with no cars in the parking lot. Doesn't mean they haven't had orders, because it's takeout and delivery. But just from that standpoint, and the fact that I do work in a restaurant, I understand we are not busy at all. So, it really, it's a visual that you can't deny.
It's, it really has to do with how the businesses are set up. And so I think that we're going to see a very distinct change in how the restaurant industry operates. We're in a much different scenario than we would be if we were in Owen Sound. Like, we are a destination. Food is not our main business here. It's the business that we bring to attract people to come here. So we're even in a little bit of a different spot. But I know for example, in Toronto, my wife and I have a small store on Browns Line, and just a couple doors down, an amazing little bistro was evicted at the start of the pandemic. The landlord wasn't willing to work with them. And just moved in is a company called Ghost Kitchens, which is essentially about 30 different national brands that operates out of this one storefront. So they've basically taken the seating area, this nice little back private room, and they've turned it into just a production line through an app for a whole bunch of different national brands, which is cool, I guess. It's like a food court that gets delivered. But to me, it's taking away everything that's special about food. It's everything that's important about an industry. It's putting it behind a screen, literally, and just washing it away. So I hope that a lot of these independent operators, I hope they find a way to change their business, just as we're trying to do, adding online ordering or doing contactless pickups. Even we've just started a new partnership with the Royal Canadian Legion in Wyerton, where we're operating 1 day a week out of their kitchen and doing curbside pickups for their sort of membership and for the Wyerton market as well. So it's just going to be a constant battle of adapting to the way that the whole economy works and the way that consumers want to consume with brands and want to interact with them. I think convenience and digital is the way, and I don't want to pay one of those delivery fee companies the 30% or whatever they charge too. So I'm happy that they don't exist out here. I can't wait to say no to them being the only restaurant around too. So
yeah, and you know what, I've seen a couple of mom and pops switching over to that, and it just breaks my heart to see it. But I guess they feel that they need to do everything they can to try and to get that order to come into their kitchen instead of going somewhere else. But at the end of the day, you're not making any money by using those when they charge you. I'm hearing the numbers about a 24% service charge right now through one of the companies in particular. I'm not going to say their name because I refuse to advertise for them, but they've really cornered people into it, because I guess the mindset is that the millennials, that's the way millennials are doing things now. And that's by putting your company on that app and then people scroll by it, they see it, there's a chance that they're going to take a look at you, right? But I don't, they're giving money, they're giving the food away, and it's not helping the restaurant at all.
The biggest change is that initially the function of that company was initially going to be a utility. It was we are going to help get your food into the hands of your consumer. But what it's evolved into is marketing. So now it's our customer is going to order from your restaurant and we'll fulfill it. So they're providing more of a service and taking more of that big chunk there. But it does make it completely unsustainable for an existing business with existing pricing. So if you opened up a new shop and did your pricing specifically to operate like this ghost kitchens place would do, you can make a business that operates on that. But if you try to take your existing little diner and your $7 breakfast and then distribute it like that, it's just not going to be sustainable.
That's absolutely true. And there's so many things that, and it was great to get an opportunity here to get the word out. And again, I applaud you, Matt, on your honesty and coming out and telling that story. And again, putting a figure, and all the restaurant owners I know appreciated what you did. So by doing that, and it has to come around for you. And, I'll tell you, we're talking about these ghost kitchens and they've been around for a little bit, but they're more prevalent now, as you were saying. But I take a look behind you. Where would I rather eat? Where would I rather sit down for a nice, relaxing, romantic or non-romantic meal? I mean, I'm looking at your lodge, at your dining room, and man, I would love to come and sit there.
It's people, they come here from afar, honestly. And it's one of the great things about when we started operating was we really got an opportunity to create a relationship with the clients that were coming here, with our guests. And they weren't necessarily coming from down the street. People make a point of coming here because it's an experience. So I certainly appreciate food. I appreciate food as an experience. When they travel as well. It won't be at my restaurant, I'll tell you that.
Okay. All right, Matt, let's, we got just a couple of minutes left here. One thing that I have noticed on the mom and pop page in the last couple of days, particularly since the latest announcement with the stay-at-home order, which I felt really didn't affect how restaurants we're right. I didn't see it making a real big difference, but I've noticed that some of the mom and pops have decided to shut down until the end of February. I can think of 3 right now. And I guess maybe they're going, okay, is it worth it to stay open? We're bleeding, I'm sure, as we said, putting out more money than they're bringing in. So maybe they just decided to close the doors, but a little nagging feeling in the back of my mind that hopefully they come back.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on how long things go. Because the name of this game is cash flow. You cannot do this with no cash in the bank. To start a restaurant back up costs you in inventory. It's a difficult thing, but if you're going to bleed out anyway by losing money every week, what's your better options? I do know a bunch of restaurants in our area did make a similar decision. I don't blame them at all. To be honest. The biggest factor for me is I want to make sure that my staff comes back. I don't have an operation here if my core staff goes and gets other employment. So for me, it's even if we're losing money, if I can pay that staff bill, that's what's going to sort of keep us going. I don't want to lose them.
And that's exactly what I've heard. I've heard that from a number of business owners or restaurant owners, including my boss. Like, I don't want to lose my key people. I need to, as much as I can to keep them here, because eventually we're going to get back to full business again, and I need those people to get me back going again. So again, another tough spot that business has been put in, and as I said, I try to remain as upbeat as I can and as positive as I can. And each one of the guests I talk to each week on the show, they always manage to give me that glimmer of hope and that things are going to be okay. And that smile, just like the last time on Matt's face, is and your intestinal fortitude, let's put it that way, your drive, your fight, and your honesty, that outright honesty that you've had with your customers and with all of us, really, and sharing your story really means a lot to everybody. And it should, because, who better do you want to talk to than somebody that's going to tell you the truth?
I'm glad that I'm coming off as upbeat. I can't say that that's how I fall asleep every night, but you know what? Again, if you're not smiling, you're going to be in trouble. So I really appreciate the opportunity to tell the story.
Well, Matt, I tell you what, if people didn't know about Red Bay Lodge, they certainly do now. So, Matt Dwyer from the Red Bay Lodge in Red Bay, Ontario, thank you so much. Keep that smile on your face, sir. And when this thing all goes away, I am absolutely 100% coming up to Red Bay to see you. My brother-in-law just lives up the road, by the way, so I've been telling him to head down there and get some food from you. But I'll definitely stop in and see you, Matt. Thank you so much.
Amazing. We'll see you on Facebook until then.
Take care, buddy. Thank you. All right, that was Matt Dwyer of the Red Bay Lodge in Red Bay, Ontario. Thank you so much, Matt, for your honesty and a great show today. For producers Mark Perry and Darlene Van Lick, I'm Rob Leonard. We'll see you next time on Mom and Pop Eateries.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Hi, I'm Sharon Skelly, host of Community Close-Up. Please watch us every week here on Rogers TV.
To understand the world.
Okay, we're here. Come on, it's go time.
Seek.
So what happens if we bring the full light of modern science onto ancient curses?